Hi, and thanks for joining. It's Amit from Unlimited Elements. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take a PSD file, a Photoshop file, and convert it into a Elementor WordPress page template. So I'm scrolling in this project so you can see what we're going to be doing, and I'll take you over the sections before we start. The first section is a hero section with a title, some text, and a cool little underline text effect. Over here we have two columns with an image, again a title, separator, text, and a button. The next section has sort of three service boxes which have a cool hover effect, which adds a border to the image and a title and a description. And these boxes are offset from the section itself, meaning they're going out of the section. And we have a really cool layout over here of a couple of images, and we're going to also add a cool hover effect for them. Another little button, and over here we have a testimonial carousel with some arrows. And the last part is similar to the part we had above, which is just two columns, image and some text. So I'm going to take you step by step how we're going to make this, and I'll try to be as precise as possible, meaning I'll try to be pixel perfect. I'll try to use the exact colors, the exact images, the exact layout as much as I can, and give you some tips that I have for you to achieve what you want to achieve. So first things first, we're going to start with this first section. I'm going to jump into WordPress, go into Pages, add a new page. I'm going to call it Car Homepage, and I'm going to click Publish and edit with Elementor. Over here, for demonstration purposes, I'm just gonna take off my header and my page title by going into the settings icon down here, and in page layout I'm gonna choose Elementor Canvas. Now this might not be the best solution for you. You might want to use Elementor full width. I'm not using it right now because it will leave my logo over here and I don't want it to show for the demonstration. So Elementor Canvas, just take in mind that if you choose Elementor Canvas, this will hide your header and footer, and you're probably not going to want to do that. Just because this is a tutorial video, and I don't mind doing it. Going back into Photoshop, and I want to copy the text over here. Let me just open the layers panel. Now, when you click on a layer inside of Photoshop and your layers panel is open, what's going to happen is it's going to show it selected in the layers panel. Now, this happens only if you're going to be using the move tool. So you need to be on the move tool selected, and you need to be on auto select. The checkbox needs to be on, and under auto select you need the layer to be selected. So make sure about three things. First of all, move tool is selected, auto select is on, and auto select is on layer chosen. This is not by default when you download Photoshop, so you need to make sure these three things are selected. And now I want to copy my text. To copy my text, instead of typing it manually, I'm just going to double click on the T over here. It's going to tell me that this font is missing on my computer, and I'm just going to say OK. Now later on we will want to bring this back because we want to know which font we are using, but right now we're only in the copy text stage, so I'm okay with it not showing the font right now. inside of Elementor, I'm going to click on the widgets pane, which is this icon over here on the top right. And what we want to add is a heading. So I'm going to drag inside a heading. And I'm going to paste inside the text that we've copied from Photoshop. Now, before I'm going to style anything, I'm just going to put my elements on the page. So let's go to the next one, Photoshop, and let's take this text. Okay, copy. And this time, instead of using a heading element, I'm just going to use a text editor. Now, the difference between a heading to the text editor is just a heading is for titles, and the text editor is more for, let's say, paragraphs or text or something like that. Okay, cool. So we got this set up. Now the next thing is this little icon over here, which is like a link with an underline, and I need to see how I'm going to make it. So we can make a button with an underline border, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a third-party add-on or widget for Elementor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit to the dashboard. And over here, I have a widget library, which is called Unlimited Elements. It just adds a couple of more things to your Elementor widget pane. So for example, right now we're under image hover effects, and I can check out the different ones. If you want to see how they behave, you just click preview, and you can hover over it and see if you like it. You can click install. Now, what I'm looking for is a button with an underline. So I'm going to go into the buttons section, and over here we have link underline to button. I want to see how it looks, so I'm going to click preview. And as you can see, there's some text with an underline. And when you hover over it, it also gives you sort of a cool, unique kind of hover effect. So this is the one I'm going to be using. Again, you can achieve this in many ways. To install this, I'm going to click install. It's installing it to my Elementor page. And now, if I'm going to look in the widgets pane, it's not going to be here yet because I need to refresh the page. Because I worked in a different tab, and when I came back, meaning I installed the widget right now, and now I'm going back into Elementor, I won't see it yet. So I need to save my page by clicking the green publish button down here. I'm going to refresh the page, and now when the page opens again, I will see the new widget that I've installed from Unlimited Elements. So let's drag that inside. Perfect. So that's exactly what I wanted to achieve. Now I'm going to align it to the left from its settings. And I think we're all set. So we got all our 3 elements for the first section. Let's just make sure 1, 2, 3, we got everything. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to revert back to the stage where I had the fonts, because the next part is going to be giving the correct fonts, the font families. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to control, or let's do edit, undo edit type layer. Perfect. So now we've reverted back these two to the correct font they were in. And let's check what font that is. So to check what font it is, I'm clicking on the layer to select it in the layers pane. And on the right side over here, what I need to do is I need to click the text tool. And once I click the text tool, on top over here, it will show me the font family name, the weight, the font size, and the color these are really important things. So let's start from the font, which is Playfair Display. Going back into the browser, and inside of Elementor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this hamburger menu on top, and over here we have a section which is called Default Fonts. In the default fonts, I'm going into Primary Headline, and I'm going to change the family to Playfair Display. Take in mind that when I copied it from Photoshop, it didn't have a space between the two words, so I need to add a space between the two words to find that. And as you can see, it immediately changes the headline. And the reason why I'm doing it from here and not from the typography of the widget is because I want every headline that I'm going to add to the page to get this font without needing to select it manually each time. Now the weight is a bit heavier. As we saw earlier, it was bold, and I'm changing it to bold. Perfect. Next step, I want to change its size. To change its size, we need to do it manually, and I'm going to click on the widget to edit. I'm going into the Style tab, and under Typography, I'm going to change the size to 120, like we saw in the Photoshop file. The next thing is to do the text color. I'm going into Photoshop, clicking on the color. Okay, let's copy it. This is called a hex code. Text color, and I'm gonna paste it over here. Perfect. Next things next, we're going to check out the paragraph text, which is going to probably be the same text for all of our paragraphs. So again, I clicked on the layer, and over here I'm going to click T, and I see it's using Proxima Nova. Proxima Nova, from what I know, is an Adobe Typekit font, so it probably won't be found inside of the Elementor fonts, but a really similar font to Proxima Nova is you can use or Montserrat or Poppins, which right now I think is selected, but let's check this out. So again, I clicked the top hamburger menu, and I'm clicking default fonts, and now what we want is to change the body text. So let's see. Okay, as I thought, Proxima Nova cannot be found. Right now we're on Poppins, but let's just see how Montserrat looks. It looks very, very similar. So these three fonts, Montserrat, Poppins, Proxima Nova, they are very similar, and I think it will be okay to use the Montserrat font. So we're good to go over here. Let's just make sure that the size is okay. And it was 16 over here. So let's go back. Click on it. Style. Typography. And in size, I'm going to put 16. I think it was already 16, but just wanted to make sure. Great. Next things next. Over here inside of the Photoshop, this part is not so wide, so meaning this section needs to be less wide. Now the way I'm going to measure this is just I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool, okay, by clicking on it, and I'm going to select the place where the text is inside, sort of marking the box width. Now we can see as I'm selecting, before I remove my finger from the mouse pad, we can see over here next to the mouse pad that the width is something like 500 pixels. Now even if I leave my click or leave the mouse pad, if I want to see what size my selection is, I can open the window info, and over here in width we can see it's 492 pixels, which is very close to 500. So I'm going to do 500. And in case you're not in pixel mode and you're in centimeters or something like that, what you're going to want to do is Command or Control R. This will open the ruler inside of Photoshop. Right click on the ruler, and you can change whatever measurement you're in and change it to the units that you would like to use. In this case, I want to use pixels. So perfect. We know now that this is supposed to be 500 pixels wide. So I'm going to edit the section. To edit the section, I'm going to just right click, edit section, and over here in content width, boxed is good for me. I'm going to put in the units that I measured before. And now we can see that the layout is starting to look as the example inside of Photoshop. Now, a small problem we have with this little hover effect is that it's not aligning fully to the left. I mean, it is aligned, but when you're not hovering over it, it doesn't look aligned. So I need to decide if I want to maybe move it a little bit to the left. Now, I can't really move it right now because I'm limited to the 500 pixels we set in the boxed section width. But what I can do is I can add a negative margin in its settings. So I'm going to click on the pencil, Advanced. In margin, I'm going to unlock my lock. And in left margin, I'm going to set a negative value. Okay, until I reach the exact pixel I want to be in. And now I think that's okay. Next things next, if we're already here, let's set up the font and the text. So first of all, I see it's we're writing read more. The text needs to be read more, so let's change that. So I'm going into content, read more. If you want, you can link it. Let's see the border color. So the border color is the same as the text over here. So let's just copy it from here. Click on it to edit. Perfect. Let's go into style. Enable the font styles. And let's give it a color also for the text. Perfect. And I think the text needs to be a lot smaller. I guess this is also 16 pixels. Oh, wait, it's even 14. It's even smaller. So let's go into typography and write over here 14. I think that's starting to look pretty good. Okay, cool. Next things next, and we're going to start talking about the section background. So I'm just going to click on the background. It automatically selects the layer, and you're going to want to start understanding how layers are built inside of Photoshop. And the first thing that I notice is that this background is not built only from one layer. It's built from 3 layers, okay? We can see a folder over here, which inside of the folder has 1, 2, 3 different types of layers. Each layer is something different. We have a smart object over here with a image inside of it. We have a smart filter, which is adding some kind of filter. We have a shape layer, and the image is with a clipping mask into the image itself. So I need to export these 3 as one layer, one united layer, and one merged layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click Merge Group. And I can do that, or I can just do Export As, and it will know to export these 3 as one layer. Now, a super important thing when exporting is the weight of the image. PNG is a file, is a format that takes up a lot of space. So I'm just going to change this to JPEG, and it's still taking a lot of space. So what I think I'm going to do is maybe we're going to export this, and let's take down the quality maybe a little bit. Okay, this is looking better. I think for a hero image, maybe something like 300K is the max that you're going to want to go. Make sure that you're not pixelizing the image too much. But this is just like a atmosphere image, and it's going to be in the background. So I think we're okay. I'm going to give it a name. Save it on my desktop. And go inside of Elementor. Right click, edit section. Style. Background type, I'm going to choose a solid color. And I'm going to, into my media library, upload files, select a file, desktop, BG, insert media. Perfect. So we have our image. And now I want to make this section be full height. I mean, nobody wants such a small section. Also over here in Photoshop, we can see it's taking the full height of the browser. So under the section layout, let's see if we have a height option, and I'm going to do fit to screen. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted, for the text to be in the center and for the section to be full height. Now, since we've changed the background to be a background image, now we can't see the text over here anymore. So I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to change the text color to white. Perfect. I think this part is looking pretty good. Pretty good. And we can start. Okay, only one more thing. In edit section style, in the image, I want to do two things. In the background, I want to do two things. One, I want to change the size to cover. The reason I do that is because I don't know what kind of device people are going to be viewing my website in, and I want the image just to cover it no matter what. If it's bigger, if it's smaller, I want it to fit automatically. So the best practice for this is just using size cover. And it's a good thing, even though right now there's an image covering over it, it's a good thing also to add a background color. The reason for that is at the end of the day, this is going to be a live website. People are going to be viewing it with all kinds of internet speeds. And we don't know how much time the image will take to load on their website. And load time is the number one important thing in conversion rates and UX and how you want the visitors of your websites to feel. So we just want a black background, which in this case is very similar to the image itself. So it's a good solution. So every time you add a background image, I do suggest you also have a solid color configured. Next step, let's go into Photoshop. And this part is very simple. It's just two columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the sort of red plus over here, and I'm going to select two columns. And these are my two columns. And in the first column, we're going to add the image. Now again, as you can see, this image is cropped into a shape. And The reason for that is that the designer didn't want to ruin the whole image. He wanted to give you an option to move it around, and he didn't want to make something that he can't edit afterwards. So makes sense, but now we need to export it. So let's just use the same technique we did earlier. Right click, export as. And again, 200K is okay for me. Just checking we didn't lose too much quality. Export. And let's call it image 1. To add a simple image inside of Photoshop, again, widgets pane, and we can drag the image widget inside, click on it, upload file, select file, image, insert. Looks good to me. And we're going to start doing the right side over here. So the right side has a title, a separator, some text, and a button. Let's copy the text. Widgets pane, heading, drag it inside, change the text. Let's also do the font size if we're already here. "60 pixels." Back to Elementor, style, typography, 60 pixels. Let's see if the color might be different. No, it's black. Okay, perfect. Next thing's next. It's this little shape over here. It's called an underline. Let's open our info again to see the size. Control T. Control T is the transform tool. And once I'm transforming this layer, it will show me that it's 47 pixels width and height 2. So that's important information. Now to do this, I'm going to the widgets pane, and I'm going to use the divider. Perfect. Width of the divider is, instead of percent, I'm going into pixels. And I think that was 47. Perfect. And in style, we can choose the weight. The weight was 2 pixels, 2 pixels high. And the gap is the space that we have above and beneath. Right now, I'm not gonna change that. Only gonna bring the color. So to bring the color, I'm just gonna double click on the layer, which is a shape layer, and that's why I can see its color. And the reason I know it's a shape layer is because of the small square on top of it. We got that set up. Let's do the paragraph. Double click. Okay, copy. Widgets pane, text editor. Paste in our text, and we're good to go. Next step, button, widgets pane. Drag in the button. Photoshop, just need the word more, and we're going to want it to be a white background with sort of a solid border. So first of all, under size, I'm gonna choose a bigger size, which looks better to me, more resembles the example. I'm gonna click more, and in style, gonna give the background color a white color. Now let's just see the text. The text is black, so I'm going back into Elementor. Let's change the text to black. Perfect. And border type, we want a solid border. The width is going to be 2 pixels. And we don't want a border radius, so I'm going to put over here 0. Now padding, we need some more padding. So you can measure this actually if you want. To measure this, again, we're going to use the select tool. So we have 70 from the sides and on top 18, let's say. So let's go for 18, and 70, and the border color is over here. Let's just copy the color from here. Oops. Okay, I'm just going to show you how we save this color into our color palette. Over here, we can click plus, and that way I don't need to copy it each time. So let's go back and select. Perfect. And let's do the hover mode. So it's very important when you have buttons to add a hover mode. So over here, we're in the style button, hover. And the hover I'm going to want is I'm going to change the background to the same color as the border. I think that's looking fine. And that's about it. So next step, let's add some padding on top and under. So to the section. So over here we have 120 pixels. Edit section, advanced, padding unlock. Top 120, bottom 120. Perfect. So now we have correct padding. Over here, and let's see in the Photoshop, you can see the text is aligned to the middle of the image. To do that, we need to go into the column settings. So I'm going into column settings and vertical align middle. Now it's in the middle. Perfect. And let's go back into the edit section. And layout and structure. The reason I done that is because from what I see over here, the image is in a larger width column than the text. So we can change the structure from 50-50 to 60-33, which makes more sense to me. I think now it represents in a better way the layout like it is in the Photoshop file. Perfect. I think we're ready for the next section. So let's scroll down, and this is a cool section. So first of all, we have a title and a separator. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this title and paste it inside over here. The reason why I'm copy and pasting, because I already have the size and everything set up, so it's really easy. I'm going to do the same thing with my little separator, copy paste, and let's set up the background image over here. Again, made out of a couple of layers. Right click, export as, and JPEG. We can take down the quality a little bit to make it way less. I'm going to call it Service BG. Edit section, advanced, style, background type. Always use a background color. Image, upload, select, Service BG, and insert. Let's add some padding. I guess it's going to be 120 again. Yeah, so this is a good designer. I'll show you at the end who made it. I hope I won't forget. I downloaded it from online. So advanced, padding, top, 120. Now underneath I'm not going to add padding, and because our boxes are going to offset outside of the section, and that's why I'm adding padding only on top. Let's change this text to white. I think that's good. And over here we need to split, and now we need to add 3 boxes. Now to do that I need to split it into 3 columns. To do that I'm going to use a widget which is called inner section. Now inner section, what it does, it allows you to divide a section with only 1 column into more than 1 column. So right now what's going on is that we have a section inside of a section. Perfect. The kind of widget over here, I'm not sure we have inside of Elementor. We might have. If you have any input about this, please comment about it in the comments so I can also know about it. But what I'm going to use is again a third-party widget. So I'm going back into Unlimited Elements, and over here we have Image Hover Effects, and I'm going to look for something that has a inside border, and I think this one does. So I'm going to click Preview and check out how it works. I think it's pretty similar to what we have in the Photoshop. So I'm just going to install it, and take in mind if you install something and you don't like it at the end, and you don't have to use it. You can delete it afterwards. It won't take up any space in your hosting, or it won't harm any performance or something like that. So I've saved the page. I'm going to refresh it to see my new widget that I've installed from Unlimited Elements. Click the widgets pane. Drag it inside of the column, and I think that's looking pretty good. It also has an option to show the title only on hover, even though I think it's sort of nice to have a title maybe, but if you want you can turn it off, and we can determine the overlay color. So let's go for something more black. We can add some opacity. Okay, perfect. I think we're all set to go. I'm going to turn back the title. And the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first image first of all. Let's hide over here all of the layers. We have the frame, and we have the opacity. Okay, good. So I think the others are okay, 90%. So let's make this one also 90%. Okay, it looks too bright, so I'm just gonna make it 50%. Okay, perfect. So we have our 3 images. I'm gonna save them. First image, and export as JPEG, export. I'm going to call it box 1. Second one, image, export as. Export box 2, and the third one, perfect. So we got our 3 images. Now I'm going to replace them over here. So the first one, upload, select. We can upload our 3 images in one upload. Insert media. Perfect. I think that's looking pretty good. It has sort of a white border around it, meaning that I didn't export it exactly as I should. We can fix this later on. Let's just see the other one. So I'm going to duplicate the column by clicking this gray icon and duplicate. The gray icon is representing the column. Or you can just even copy and paste the widget into a empty column if it exists. I'm gonna click on the widget to edit. Let's replace the image in each one of them. Perfect. So we have our images set up, our layout is set up, everything is cool. And now we want to offset this outside of our section. And to do that, what we can do is I'm going into the intersection settings inside of advanced, margin, bottom, and I'm going to set it to a negative value. Now we need to measure this. How much of offset do we have? Something like 70 pixels. Great. Now there's more space between each of these images, and to achieve that I'm going into section settings, layout, and column gap. I can make that wide, really wide, which is like the example. I need to add again some more. Yeah, perfect. Some more negative margin for the overlap, and we are all set. For some reason, I don't know why, the font of the titles has changed, so I'm just gonna go back to the default fonts and check out why that happened. I'm not sure. Oh, maybe I didn't click apply before. Yeah, I think I didn't click apply before. So let's do the text as well. Apply. Perfect. Okay, we're back on track, and we're moving pretty fast and pretty good. This part is looking great. We have a small problem with the alignment over here, and the fix I would do for that is just go into the add-on itself, the widget itself, and add some padding. On the left, we can do 30. And over here also on the left, 30. Perfect. Now everything's aligned, looking good, and our page is looking good. Okay. Next things next. Let's check it out in the Photoshop file. And another cool section. So we have a title with a separator. Let's start from that. Click plus. And as you can see, this section is now going under. To fix that, I'm just going to right click the edit section, advanced, and in the top padding, I'm going to add some padding. So we can add even some more. So I can actually see the part where the column where I need to add stuff inside. So I'm just going to copy the title, center it. I'm going to call it projects. Over here we need to call it services. Let's copy the separator. Center it. And again, like we've done before, we can achieve this kind of effect with inner sections. So I'm going to add two inner sections, one under each other. And in each one, I can put, on the top one, I can put 2 images, and on the bottom one, I can put 3 images. So we need to export our images. Gonna merge layers, export. Gonna call it gallery 1. And each time, because over here they're not inside of a group, we need to each time merge it with the clipping mask that it's under. So I'm going to do export as. Gallery 2. Export as. Gallery 3. I hope you're not getting bored. And let's do merge. Export as. Gallery 4. And last but not least, merge layers, export as, export, and gallery 5. Cool, we're all set with that. And I also noticed there's a button over here, so we can also add an intersection for that. So let's add another intersection. Leave only one column inside, so I'm going to delete the last column. And we have a very similar button over here, and I'm going to paste that inside of this one and center it. In this middle line, I have 3 columns, so I just made the layout into 3 columns, and in the top one I have only 2 columns. Let's add it as images. Upload, select all our gallery. So gallery 1. Now the image, I wanted to make it full width, so I'm going into style, width, and I'm going to 100%. I just want to make it 100% of the column, and I'm going to duplicate it and move it into the right column and change the image. Perfect. Now in the example, the right one is bigger than the left one. So again, in the structure, we can decide that the structure will be different. Now, this is sort of exaggerated, so to fix this, I'm going into the column layout by clicking on the gray icon of the specific column. I'm going to change it to 60 or even a bit less. We can play around with that. And to align this one to the bottom, again, in layout, vertical align, we can do bottom. So that's about the layout that we have in the Photoshop file. And we can make the gap bigger between them because, as you can see, there's a big space between these two. Style and layout, column gap. Let's go for wide, or let's check wider. wide. Okay, perfect. Let's do the 3 other images. So copy, paste. First of all, I'm just going to put them inside. Select them. Okay, perfect. Now over here, inside of the Photoshop, you can see this section is going full width. It's really, really wide. And so to do that, first of all, we need to go to the upper section, which is holding all of the intersections. In layout, I'm going to choose, instead of boxed, full width. Now that's not enough, because now the outer section is full width, but still this inner one is not full width. So I'm going to go into the inner one. Oh, I need also to make this column full width. Let's see if I can. Oh, I think I can't. Let's see, edit section, stretch section. Let's go into this one. Full width. So over here I'm a little bit stuck. Let me think again. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these into different sections. So I'm going to open a new section and drag. I don't know if this will work. Okay, what we're going to do is over here in the new section, I'm going to add 3 columns. Drag inside my images. And I'm going to make this section full width. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to achieve. Why do I see this image twice? Okay. Perfect. We can delete this one, add a new section underneath, move the button inside, and delete this one. And in the advanced, we don't need so much bottom. Oh, that's the reason why it wasn't going full width. Oh, I'm so stupid. Because of the padding. Never mind. Gonna unlock the padding. Bottom 0. This is looking better. The layout is starting to look okay. And now I'm going to make the column gap the same as we've done earlier, which is wide. And I think that we've achieved what we wanted. Let's just check in the Photoshop file. Just this one, it needs to be a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is column and column width, and I'll make it, let's say, 40. And now we have sort of a really cool layout. It resembles what we have in the Photoshop, which is cool. Of course, if we want to space this out, I'm going to add some padding on top and on the bottom. Perfect. Now we're ready for our next section. Let's see what we have. So the next section is sort of like a full height section like we had earlier on the top part. Let's take the background image by doing export as. Make sure it doesn't weigh too much. Let's see how much it weighs. 2 megabytes. Wow, that's way too much. Take the quality down to 60. That's okay. Export. And I'm going to call it testimonial BG. This section doesn't have a title or anything. It just has this sort of testimonial carousel, which is built in side of Elementor. So let's just drag a testimonial carousel over here. Perfect, looks good. Don't see any reason to change something too much. Let's just add the background by style. Background, always try to give a background color. And our image, I'm going to select it, and I called it testimonial BG. Insert media. In the layout, I'm going to choose fit to screen, so this will be taking the full screen. In style, I'm going to choose size cover for the image, so it will adapt. And the typography, by the way, I'm not sure if there's a way to hide the images of the users. Yeah, if you delete it, it's just going to adapt. In style, content, I'm going to change my text colors to white. And we're pretty much set up to go. Let's just see. Okay, I see it's using a different font over here. Playfair display. And the size is 36. So let's do that as well. Content. Playfair display. Oh, and size 36. The width here is a bit smaller, so let's just measure that. It's 790 pixels, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, over here in pixels, 790. Perfect. Pretty cool. I think the name needs to be bigger. So also in style content, we can play around with the sizes of the different parts of the content. Perfect. Maybe there's also a way to make the arrows bigger. Very cool. Thank you, Elementor. Great. And next part, which is our last part, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate the section that we've done earlier, which is almost a duplicate of this part. So I'm just going to copy the whole section by right-clicking, copy, and down here under the last section, I'm going to click paste. That's it. We're set up. Just bring in your text. So the title is Charger. And there's a little bit more text over here. Click on the layer, copy, paste. That's about it. And the image, last thing, the image. I'm gonna call it Charger. Let's put it inside. Full Photoshop page, and just I don't know how much time that took. I didn't take time, but I think it took under an hour. Very cool, very fast, very easy. And I'm just going to show you a couple of last things about responsiveness and I want to give a contribution to whoever I downloaded this from. So I'm gonna revert the file to where I downloaded it, from when I downloaded it, and there's contribution, I think over here. If we scroll up, here we go. This is the name of the designer. He's called Kirill Yevdokimov. This is his Behance. Let's scroll up. Okay. This is his Behance link. So I'll try to include this in the comments. Of course, thank you, Kirill. Thank you for this free download. And there are a lot of free downloads like this where you can find online. So it's really cool. Check it out. And the last thing is I'm going to check out some responsive settings to make sure everything's working like I want. To do that, I'm going to click responsive mode and tablet. So usually in tablet mode, we don't need to change anything. I mean, this is looking great. You can if you want, but I usually don't touch it. Not many of the users use tablet, something like 5% or 10%. So this is good for me. I'm not going to touch it. What I am going to touch is mobile mode. So change to mobile mode, and now I'm going over all of my typography, and wherever it's too big, I need to click on it, style, typography, and right now you can see that we're on mobile selected because we're on mobile selected over here. So whatever I will input change will affect only mobile, which is great. So also for the section settings, gonna add some padding, top. And on the bottom, and this part looks great. Maybe we can add some padding here, or just padding. So I'm gonna click on that. Do only 30 top and bottom. Also over here, only 30. From the top, the title doesn't look too big to me. It looks okay. These boxes look okay. Over here, we have a problem, so I'm just gonna click the padding, adjust it to whatever I want. Everything is great. So as you can see, not many changes need to be made. It's mostly padding issues and text size issues, and also not a lot. Over here, this carousel just doesn't know how to adapt from what I think. So let's go into the content. Maybe here in the pixels I need just to do something smaller. And style, content, let's make the text smaller. Perfect. That's about it. So we're done, and as you can see, my wife is calling me, so I need to answer her, so it's a good time to finish the video. Thank you guys for joining, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. If you have any suggestions, don't hesitate to send me, and thank you for joining. See you next time.